couple of things I would like to mention. I've got a lot of questions from what you have discussed, and we should have a very interesting Q&A session. I just wanted to note that yesterday in the Financial Times, there was a main article stating that the emissions will increase by 70% because of the closing of Suez and their Red Sea passages. This is because we're going to have much longer routes, and the ships may need to accelerate to make the timing more helpful to the traders of goods, and each 1 mile added to the speed of the ship adds very, very substantially to its emissions. And this is something we may need to look at our Q&A session. 2 days ago, the Federal Reserve announced that the US inflation is around 3.1, 3.2%, and that really puzzled the markets and made the small stock market run, because people feel that the reduction in interest rates they were expecting across the globe is simply not going to happen. And higher interest rates mean higher borrowing costs, of course, and fewer possibilities for the equity markets. The 10-year bond of the United States, US 10-year bond, has a yield now of about 4.3, 4.4%. which is quite higher than before. And the AAA, the best bonds you can get in the American market, have now yields of 5 to 5.1, 5.2%. So we have a definitely trend and pressure towards higher interest rates, and of course that means a little bit lower growth. German bond yields are much lower at 2.4% for 10 years. Unemployment in the European Union is about 6.4%, relatively stable. There's the issue of how will Donald Trump, if he wins the elections, will behave in terms of being more isolationist or more interventionist. He mentioned that he will close the deal with Ukraine and the war there in a day after he becomes president. And we had this whole NATO uproar, because he said that countries that belong to NATO that don't spend 2% of their GDP on defense are going to be on their own, and they should not count on the umbrella of the United States for protection, which is something that caused a lot of rattle in the markets. In Europe, we have this famous farmers' revolt from Greece all the way to France and north. Farmers feel very much stressed, but it's a reality now in terms of fuel costs and all the green culture that has been on the front page. So the farmers feel that this is costing them too much, and they cannot really earn a living because of that. So the farming problem is a big problem now in Europe. And I saw also a very, very interesting, Trevor, picture of what percent of the households is held in stocks or bonds, and what percent is held in basic cash and bank deposits. It was very interesting. The USA is the top of the list in terms of people having very low cash and deposits and more in bonds and stocks, with about 13%. Second, in terms of holding investment assets rather than cash and bank deposits, is Denmark, with about 14%. The Netherlands, with about 21%. The UK, with 31%. Held in cash and bank deposits. France with 31%, EU average 34%, Germany 43%, Poland 52%, and we in Greece are the last ones. We have 58% of our holdings in cash and bank deposits, which means there's very, very substantial room to grow. I could not find yet UAE and Gulf region statistics, but I would imagine a lot of them are in homes, in cash and deposits, which means there's a lot of growth for the other markets available that's sleeping. Other things in the news was that Russia intends to cut its output by 500,000 per day below what the June average was. There's a lot of action in the fossil fuel area, even though we're talking about renewable fuels. Only 2 days ago, a company in Texas called Diamondback is a snake there, and they got the name from that snake. They bought for 26 billion the tar sands of Endeavor Energy. And this follows another 60 billion bought by Exxon in the area of another tar sand kind of operation, and also ConocoPhillips. So the idea is that, yes, we're moving to alternative fuels, but the fossil fuels are still there and strong and will be there and strong for a number of years. The next area that's really very, very hot is, of course, artificial intelligence. NVIDIA is a company that a few years ago almost nobody knew about. And now it has a market capitalization of around $1.8 trillion. A company that a few years ago was completely unknown. And there's another company that's up and coming in the artificial intelligence area called ARM Holdings. Now, ARM Holdings has a record that is trading at 34 times its expected revenues, and now has a market capitalization of 140 billion, and it's only 1 year in the market. It got into the market last September, and you're seeing this kind of explosive growth. So yes, we're living in very exciting times. They're difficult times, but I don't think anywhere in history you found times that were easier than this. There were always wars, conflicts, diseases. Maybe we have it a little bit better than we think that we have. And I think the future is really bright. I think there's a lot of exciting people out there doing a lot of exciting things. Artificial intelligence, as we've seen here, being one of them, and the market is looking into that. I would expect that the markets in the Gulf region would explode, but then there needs to be a bit more attention paid to them. There's, I think, tremendous unlocked potential there. It may not necessarily become the New York Stock Exchange, but there's still a lot of room to grow, and I think companies here should start looking at listing here and maybe have a dual listing internationally, which is something that many people have not detected. It's a capacity to list in more than one markets, and you have what I've seen here and heard here, very, very exciting companies. So again, Trevor, congratulations for this event. I think it's time to have questions. I have my own, from myself, questions, but take it from the audience. And if you want to ask each other some questions, that would also be great. Should we see if the audience or from, yeah. First of all, if you're thinking of listing in any of the markets, and if you think there's financing with alternative ways other than the basic, I put 60% of equity and I want 40% of debt, or some other sort of combination, 50-50. Let's start from that. Do you think there's going to be any changes in the financing structure? And if you think that any alternative ways that have come, Captain, up your alley and appeared exciting more than just straight bank financing from one of the local banks?
Thank you, Petros. I believe, with my colleagues also, what they have stated in their speech and presentations. We are all admit that now the world is moving super fast. And I believe also the investment that it should not fall into a certain categories or into a certain assets, but also we need to have further investments in digitals and technologies and also having a proper trainings that we can give to our next generations and financials. So that's quorum or that's platforms. I believe we need to establish it in a proper manner. Also, to have the integrations and synergies in between these investments. I believe every single one, especially with our regions, it has a very strong economic and it has a very solid backgrounds and foundations. These investments should take in a part of synergies in between the financial institutions, in between ports, authorities, terminals, shippings as well. Dry docks also is taking a part of the games now. And this is what really we need to create this platform into the regions and to mitigate all these risks. So all investors, they are willing to have a direct interactions with the financial institutes, but of course, we should make the balance of these weights and how we can mitigate these challenges.
And a quick question, why do you think that the equity markets, the stock markets here and the bond markets have not been used as much as in London or New York or even Athens now? Because you do seem to have the wealth, you have the top talent. It's amazing how much talent there is in the region. Why haven't the capital markets developed more than what they have? But my feeling is that the room is tremendous for much more of that. And attracting international investors. Let's say people in Italy or Athens or France don't really know what's happening in the equity markets here, and I'm sure there's a lot of exciting things. How can we make this system here, which is already functioning well, become even more international?
I agree with you that I met with so many experts like you, and always I like to listen to them carefully and just to hear what is the demand and the supplies today to manage in the markets. More than really 70% of the feedback that I'm receiving, that some things we never have it. Not even to be limited with the regions, but all around the world. And this is where we need to have these synergies, integrations, and of course, the interconnections in between the players in the logistics and transportation sectors. The capitals, it's theirs. The visions of the leaderships also, we have it. The strategy we have. So the implementations, which is, I believe, it's missing to take a place. And this is where I see it today with the most of the companies or governmental entities or semi-governmental entities. They are putting the focus in their strategy to have it.
And Ibrahim, doctor, do you think that you would ever look into the capital markets to get financing? And what is your schedule for upgrading and retrofitting your ships to become more climate friendly?
Okay. Thank you, Petros. Let me start from the second part of the question, and I will leave the surprise to the end. Yeah. So it's when it comes to retrofitting our current fleet, mainly the mid-age and the older ships, basically we're utilizing our capability, of course, in the dry dock to do that upgrade. And we have a plan that by 2032, we should have 100% of our ships as ESG compliant. And that is, though it's very aggressive, but we are confident that we can do it. And we've already started, as I said.
So at what cost? How much money you expect to spend for all the...
Very interesting. Millions.
Oh.
Tens of millions. Okay?
And, yeah, no money.
And tons of expertise. But no, fact is, to be serious, it's yes, it's going to cost us a lot of money. But on the other side, we are also we're working. The commercial team is working on one side to basically concrete and cement very reliable and sustainable contracts, while we are doing this on the other hand. So and there's a cost, of course, for it. However, that is we are very confident that we're going for it. Now going to the magic question, raising capitals. As I said, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done when it comes to raising capitals. Today, it's not just only banks. You can go somewhere else, leasing contracts, for example, especially with companies that are not subsidiaries of banks. There's peer-to-peer lending as well. And though this type of lending, and I'm sure that Chris will maybe add a little bit more to it later on, but it gives companies with little bit of exposure to financiers a bit of more room to basically improve and expand in their capital funding. For us, as I said, shipping, being a company there for the last 20 years, operating somewhere around 85 ships with just above 12 million tons of gross tonnage. We believe that we are in a situation where we can go public. And that is the intention, actually, for us at one point of time. So towards hopefully, by year end or maybe Q1 next year, we will announce basically an IPO approach for the shipping. And this is going to be for a certain percentage, where we will divide it into two things. One, for anchor investors, and basically for capital raising. And this is where anchor investors, like maybe 3 or 4 anchor investors, will be there. And there will also be a percentage where individual investors can actually also even go into it. So we will be going into the capital market because we believe that the capital market need to have that, shipping companies need to have that exposure to the capital market, as well as the capital market need to also market their presence and being seen, as I said now, that European don't really don't see the opportunities that we have here in the Gulf region. I believe that we can create that change. We can make it by basically being with the market, capital market, and while we are also maintaining a good percentage as for the existing shareholder. So it will be a combination of two things. Or not two things, a mix of few things, basically. So it's whether it's private equity, whether it's capital fund, and getting exposed to the capital market, or also maintaining with or continuing with our current financiers. So I think, and these are just small things that can be done. There are many things and many solutions. As I said before, ship owners are very innovative. And we've seen it, because no matter what challenge is there's always a solution for that challenge. And we will never stop at any point of time to come up with different solutions.
And when you say capital markets, you think of London, or you think of New York, or more local? And also currently, most of the financing comes from regional banks?
It's financing comes from different banks. So it's from regional as well as international banks. It's there, whether in the east or the west. So it's a mixed thing. When it comes to the listing, perhaps, as I said, we also need to be seen that we are adding value to the country. So it's like in-country value. And so initially, we will start with a single listing in Oman, but then we are also open for dual listing, where it could be in Oman and outside Oman. And this is also to position Oman as part of, in the region, that we have ships, listed companies, basically, listed companies or listed shipping companies within the capital market of Oman.
I think it would also be very interesting to see Oman become more international. It will have a secondary benefit as well, in addition to raising the capitals. So thank you very much, and good luck, of course.
Thank you.
Emil, are you having similar capital markets ambitions, and how are you financing and all this green way now? Is there something special that you're looking at?
I think if you look at ports or maybe broader infrastructure, it's maybe more traditional at this point in time than all these developments that are now happening with shipping, financing for shipping. So I think there's sufficient liquidity in the market. There are sufficient parties that want to finance, be it local,
mostly?
regional, or international banks, pension funds. There's also mostly investments that are pretty stable. I mean, not huge peaks or deep troughs. It's just, you know, you have your return, and you know that you will have your return, especially for pension funds. That is good to know and to have. As far as green is concerned, of course, I mean, we are scrutinized on, like I said, ESG. What are your plans for the future? So you have to have a good story in your future plans, and how you will go for, especially for us as Sohar, as an industrial cluster. So what are your intentions, what are your goals, what are your aims, and where do you want to be, let's say, in 20, 30 years? But as soon as you have that plan, then money in itself is not an issue. And there are many parties who would like to step in and who would like to fund. As far as going to the market or stock exchange, we have two very strong shareholders, Aschat being one, Port of Rotterdam being the other one. I don't think that in the near future we will do an IPO of some sort, no.
Have you seen alternative proposals in addition to straight banking that you find interesting for us to hear about? Anything other than straight?
No, that's what I'm saying. So what I see up to now, and actually we are as a port and free zone, we are in the midst of refinancing, and we have approached the market both locally in Oman, but also regional banks. We have been to Europe, and broader than that. And there's a lot of appetite from more the traditional way of financing, banks, pension funds, and what have you. And we don't see any huge changes in that.
Okay. Theo, how are you trying to cope with the effort to become greener and transform into something much greener than in what it is today? Any specific actions you're taking, or you're taking it as it is, something exogenous?
Yeah, there are two ways to deal with this, you know, becoming greener or younger. First of all, like we have been announced, like to have the youngest fleet, according, you know, to compare to all the international flags around the world. And right now we're the second greenest fleet in the world. I mean, the only way from our perspective is to be able to deal with technical experts from the industry, including, of course, some of our friends from class societies which are in this room, and develop new ways of alternative fuels, like we said before, test different kind of. We have ships which are burning LNG at the moment in the flag, and we're testing and working with the owners to see how they're performing, if they're happy with it, how it is their commercial operations, and of course the energy efficiency that they have succeeded. We have announced lately a kind of a relationship with a company in UK that they have rotor sails, and they have tested that system in a number of our ships. And the results that they have so far, they seem to work well. So we try to be part of different groups, technical experts around the world, develop new ideas, working on retrofitting, like you said before, and try to develop energy-saving devices. The other thing we're doing, we have a very strong team in the IMO, so we have to take on board what we listen from the industry, from ship owners, from consultants and class societies. And we are able, through our team in the IMO, to go in the delegation, to go in the assembly, and try to regulate in a good way so we can succeed the low carbon emissions and energy saving in the future, but at the same time be practical and try to be pragmatic in our approach.
And the registries company, what is its main focus now as a company?
We try,
as a business development manager that you have been.
Yeah, we always try to grow, of course, like around the world. We want to grow in a more efficient and a good way. We want to keep the fleet in a good level when it comes to age, of course, and of course the quality too. We set up a few offices 2 years ago around COVID, one in Canada and one in Qingdao in China, because we want to increase the level of service to our owners. And I think the hot topic for us is like IMO and the climate change and the MEPC and what's going to come out of it when it comes to alternative fuels and new energy, less energy consumption in the future.
And how many ships are in the fleet now?
It's almost 5,600 at the moment. We recently surpassed the 200 million gross tons a few weeks ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Keep
and
up the good work.
This market, Middle East, Dubai, of course, Oman, Qatar is a big market for us, and we really have to say thanks to our owners here.
Good, thanks. Chris, I was very impressed by the photo you had of the ship with sails. Is this something in the works? Do you think we're going to see it at some point? Is it something that seems to be workable, or versus other alternative shipping constructs that you have seen? Is there something new and exciting happening there that we'll see in the next few years?
There are a few ships out there that have already done this. There are rotary sails, and it improves efficiency by a few %. So
A little bit louder, please. I don't know if everyone. Yeah.
there are a few ships out there that have already installed sails, rotary sails as they're known, and it improves efficiency by a few %. But again, it's not. You're not going to go back to wind and sails replacing. But if I can come back to your stock market question, with the main principal issue for the Middle East, in my opinion, right now, is actually liquidity, and I would argue the lack of it for the normal shipping investor. If you are one of if you look at the listings that have happened in the Middle East in the past few years, you've got Aramco, you've got Salik here. These are all household names. They are utilities, and they've listed on the stock market with public support with the retail investor. If we're talking about the normal shipping company, in Greece, as you know, for the last 20 years, a guy who's managed to build up a portfolio of 10 ships could go to the New York Stock Exchange, list that company, raise money. That hasn't happened here. I think there's only on the Dubai Stock Exchange, I think there's only one company like that. And I think it's where the Middle East has been progressing hugely. We're going to talk this afternoon on one of the other panels about the new maritime law, and I think there's a perception from international investors about the Middle East laws and the regulation that has been here, which has been rapidly improving, and that perception is going away. It's a bit like pushing a stone up a hill, and I think that that's what the Middle East has been doing with the stock markets for the normal companies, and as we get closer to the top, once we go over it, then it will just roll down and it will cascade. And then I think the markets will open up. But at the moment, there is an international perception against the regulations and the laws across the Middle East. There's a lack of liquidity. There's always liquidity for a Salik and a Aramco, an Etisalat, whoever. But for Chris Peters' 10 ships, there's not many people out there that are going to invest in the stock market here. You need, and also if you do invest into that, then you want to know that you can actually get out of it. If you're in London or New York, it's freely tradable, it's marketable, and you can go in and out on a daily basis. The market here is not that liquid yet, but I think that with the changes in laws across the segments, this will come in a few years' time. And I believe once we get to that tipping point, it will cascade and the markets will open up here.
It seems to me like a virgin territory. That
Yeah.
it's there waiting for something to happen to allow it
Well, as you say,
to
all the
explode.
money.
Maybe have one of the more distinguished companies, the bigger, not the 10-ship ones, the bigger ones do it, and then everybody will follow through.
Yeah, I
But
think
it's just a virgin place. I can see it from, I'm not here, I'm in Greece, in Sparta. But it smells to me that there is so much potential there that's completely untapped, including possibly the bond markets, unless the interests that commercial banks charge are so low that no need to bother with the bond market and issue a 10-year bond or whatever. I don't know how you have seen it.
Yeah, keep talking
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the banks like that.
Huh?
Keep talking to the banks like that.
Bond markets worked in Greece, though. You know that a couple of
Yes.
years ago there were some bonds from major shipping companies in Greece, and that worked very well for them.
Yes, and the actual stock market with the international airport, the Athens International
Yes.
Airport being listed. But it's a small country with, of course, much less liquidity, even though it's a European Monetary Union country. So that helps. But it seems to be here you have so much liquidity. I'll come back to you. You wanted to add something to the...
Yeah, just to back to the Chris points that regulatory, yes, is taking parts now by the government. But if we see the history, because if we want to know the root cause of the what's the ambitions that or the potentials of opportunities you are seeing, the regions here is being by history is being served by the global companies, and that's where the Londons or the international stock markets was taking the opportunities of serving the regions here. And this is what we see the futures. It will take a place, as Chris was saying. It will take a place in a big scales now with the local companies, even also with the regional companies.
What time framework do you see?
I seen it really is very, very short terms. And you are talking within months or years to be having the takeoff. Today at Abu Dhabi ports, if you see our changes that we have made in the last 2 years, we have been public listed in the Abu Dhabi stock markets. Our shares was 3 dirhams per shares. Today is 6 dirhams per shares. We raised bonds in London's stock markets. Also, we raised bonds here in Abu Dhabi stock markets. Are we stopped to invest? No. We will continue to invest. We will continue to expand in our shippings. We'll continue to expand, also to invest in the ports and terminals that we operate. Also in the logistics, we have acquired European companies in Watims to have the connectivities and also, of course, to provide the services to our client and customers. And of course, with the economic zones and industrial clusters, we also investing hugely into the infrastructures and also the foundations that we want to build for our client and customers. Banks, of course, they have a major roles. Financials also, it has a major players within us with our growth and with our expansions. But this is where we are taking off. And this is really what we see in a lot of the companies is taking the same practice to elevate the standards, to build up the opportunities that you mentioned that, right?
Yes.
We seen it. And this is where we need to facilitate and to enable, not only with the big players, but also we want to have the smalls and also medium players to take a part with us. We grow, and also the others, they grow. And this is what the interface of the partnerships need to take a place as well.
You seem to be talking about a changing and very exciting environment, huh?
Definitely.
These things are changing quite a bit, so congratulations, and I'm sure you're at the forefront of that. Chris, you wanted to add something, and Theo?
Yeah, I would say that if I was still a shipping investment banker in the region, I would actually be not only looking at the local companies to list, but I would also encourage some of the large international companies that are on other stock exchanges to open up a secondary listing here to tap the known liquidity that's here. If that was to happen, so any bankers in the room, there's one, take this on board. If you encourage international shipping companies already listed on New York, London, Greece, elsewhere, to do a secondary listing here, that will tap into the liquidity that's already here. It will open up the market here, and then you'll get other mandates to do reverse investments.
Is the regulatory environment attractive to a secondary listing, or do you have to go through a maze of controls and requirements?
I don't know it that well, but it's quite possible.
But as a concept, you think it's...
As a concept, it's no more difficult to do a primary listing here with a secondary elsewhere, so it shouldn't be that difficult to do it the other way.
No. Theo?
One thing I wanted to say on your question to Chris about rotor sales is I was in a company in Japan in last November, And they're developing a project, probably it's already in the water, with kites, 2 kites on a ship. You know, I've never seen that before. It was the first time, maybe like some of you know about it already, but they had an expectation that through those 2 kites that they would save a significant percentage of emissions. I think they're developing the project probably already on the water. I don't know what's happening right now because we saw them in November and they presented it to us. So there are opportunities. What I'm saying is there are opportunities out there, and people taking every other possible option they can have, like rotor sail, kites, or solar panels, or whatever. The other thing that has to do with finance is I was talking with an owner last year in Europe, and they will probably get a subsidy from European Union to develop different alternatives in one of their ships. At the same time, solar power, batteries, rotor sails, and everything. So they will try. This is financed in a way. It's a kind of a subsidy. I don't know the amount or the proportion yet from European Union. So that's something that probably the owners have to look at in the future and try to come up with different finance in order to become greener.
And how do you see methanol as an alternative fuel? You think it's catching up, or it's going to take 50 years?
I think I know what you know. I'm not a technical guy myself, so I can't make a comment. I think my view is that I don't think will be only one source. Probably we'll have a couple of sources, and probably a couple of different options in the future.
Any other ideas about methanol as an alternative fuel before we get to something much more advanced?
I think that what Chris mentioned it earlier.
Emil.
Chris mentioned earlier. I mean, and that's also, I think, with the rotor and whatever solutions, there's not one or the solution. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there's so far nothing that is so efficient as fossil fuels. So, and we need to go to an alternative, but which will it be, and is there sufficient supply? And coming back to LNG, of course it's only 20% less or whatever CO2 emissions, but at least it's there. And that's why we want to invest in it, make sure that vessels can bunker LNG at our port. And for us, we're viewing the market, and the only thing we need to do is to get ready, to be ready for any fuel that is required. So be it methanol, be it ammonia. I fully understand what you're saying about ammonia, and so let's see. But at least we need to be ready for that, and that's the whole thing with the fuels. There is no one solution, one, how do you say that, silver bullet that will get us there. So everybody is looking and trying, and at the end of the day, as it stands now, you will have a whole variety of fuels, and you need to be ready.
That means, Ibrahim, I think that you're going to have tremendous amount of need for capital expenditure to adjust the ships to various alternative fuels, retrofitting, whatever. So the costs there are going to be tremendous, and the need for new capital is going to be tremendous.
Well, that's right, Petros. The question is it just methanol or green methanol? Yeah. Is it ammonia or green ammonia?
No, it must be green.
Yeah, see, because again, if it has to be green, then we have to have a green methanol. Where is it now? Just ask about yourself. Is there a country that produces green methanol that is ready to basically export it, or at least, give it to a bunkering facility? Nothing. And then the other question is, do we have the infrastructure for this, as Chris said before? I mean, a ship came all the way from Japan, hydrogen ship, everywhere in the media. It reached to Muscat. Then what? Had to go with heavy fuel oil back.
Either way, whatever solution, whatever solution comes up, is going to be tremendous capital requirements.
Exactly. Huh? Yeah. So the capital requirement should be there. The technology has to be developed first. And as we all know, the initial stage of developing any technology will be extremely expensive. Yeah. So when I said, going back to my statement, that by 2032 we'll have our ships ESG compliant. Yeah. In terms of, we will retrofit them with the minimum that can actually take us to that level. We will not be 100% compliant. There's nobody who's going to be 100% compliant, even with new ships, because the new ships that are being built now, they have to be dual fuel. There's no ship that is built with purely green fuel. I mean, we know that, for example, Maersk is building 7 or 9 ships with methanol Yeah. But these ships are dual fuel. It's methanol plus or HFO plus methanol. Same thing with the LNG ships. They're always, it's like a secondary mean of fuel. So it's not the primary mean, and it's not the only mean, which means that they will have, at any point of time between now and 2050, we will always have whether it's heavy fuel oil or marine gas oil will always be there on board. It will not go unless we end up going with the nuclear ship's fuel. Then that could be actually the only mean. And when we say this, we are talking about the salt water. So it doesn't have to be the normal nuclear. But again, it is a solution. Why aren't we looking into that? Of course, again, the cost of capex, the capital is there. You know, who can afford it? Is there the required regulations to basically manage these sort of approaches? So it is becoming quite complicated. Yet, okay, I mean, everyone is on the run to find a solution. But finding the right solution or the right affordable solution is the question. Yeah.
If you try to build a ship today in one of the top Japanese shipyards, how clean, how efficient is it going to be compared to the top standards that you're going to have? Are they still there? Something that you order today, yes, when it's built, how green is it going to be?
Well, first of all, you need to have not a deep pocket, a very deep pocket. That is the first thing. If you don't have it, don't even go that way. Let me just put it this way. Then the Japanese themselves, they don't actually build ships nowadays. Well, in the source of like, normal shipbuilding. They will build one or two here and there because they are also becoming very expensive, even for conventional ships. So let's write a green ship or like a clean energy ship. So it's becoming very expensive everywhere. The technology, again, as I said, it's still at the very basic place. So we haven't reached to a stage where we can confidently say with a lot of comfort that I'm going to build a green ship. It's just a dream. We're seeing it's coming. It's going to come one day, but it is still a dream.
It's still
not that.
But if you allow me just to add to my brother, Dr. Ibrahim, I run this exercise, and I met with one of the biggest engines manufacturers in the world. And really, it was very interesting to hear from him that we still, they don't know which the energies it will take place in the future in order to produce or to manufacture the engines. So when they will have the first, now they are doing the trial manufactures of the engines for the ammonia. And he was stating that in 2026, they will finish the trial, and in 2027, they will start to produce or to make the engines. So you see how many, the queue it will be, placed. So your order, it might be getting in 2032 or 2030s, which we will also having a very tight timing for achieving our missions, to reduce the emissions and to be in the decarbonizations. Also, the classification societies is taking a big role here to facilitate and also to enable, which the port states, the port states or the port authorities, they are waiting for the ship owners to produce or to make the right energies in order to facilitate that energies in their ports. And the ship owners also, they are waiting for the port authorities and governments to announce what's the right fuels to take in place. So it's become like egg and chicken situations, in between the all players and the sectors, and that's what it will now drag to get some delays in the deliveries of these missions. But I believe that with the full integrations and synergies in between all these components, we will make essentials game changes into these markets.
So you're a little bit in a limbo. You're not sure exactly where the whole thing is going to go. You have to wait a little bit for things to settle so you know what the new designs are going to be all about. And in the meantime, you take your risks.
But you cannot wait, Tor. You cannot wait because the regulations are pushing you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
CII, EU. So there comes a time that decisions have to be taken, which are very difficult.
Yes.
Yeah, difficult, exactly. You're
It's
not
a-
exactly sure where things are settling.
It's the egg or chicken question. What comes first? You know?
Yeah,
Do you need to retrofit and then wait for the technology to come?
absolutely.
Or get the technology first, prove it, and then go for...
And they're very expensive chickens and very expensive eggs. I mean,
Exactly.
it's not
Not to
something they can say, okay, I'll take a small risk. Theo?
And also there might be a problem in supply in the future too on new ships, because if all major owners go at the same time and order like ships that burn alternative fuels, like everybody will do it in 5 years from now, you can understand that the capacity in the shipbuilding industry is not there to accommodate all the needs at the same time. It's very difficult too.
Amar, let me get a bit quickly to the question of recruiting. Are you recruiting? Is there room for good talent, or are you overstaffed, or what is the prospect for young manager, graduate from a good school, talented, eager to work? Is there room there for a career, or things seem to be a bit crowded?
Yes, just to answer the question, yes, there is plenty of room to grow. 3 years ago, we were 1,000 employees company. Today, we are more than 14,000 employees company.
14,000?
14,000. So we are in more than 200 offices we have around the world. Also, we are managing more than 250 vessels and marine units. We have a great presence in Europe, in Red Seas, in the Gulf, as well as in Africa. That's also we see the area to improve our qualities and of course the services to our clients and customers is giving us the commitments to have the right calibers and the right talents within our organizations. And that's where we have integrated the Abu Dhabi Maritime Academy to make sure that the sort of qualities in our shippings and logistics and port terminals take the appropriate standards of Abu Dhabi Port Group.
Good, good. Doctor?
Well, when it comes to recruitment, of course, it's an ongoing process. Maybe just only to reflect on our experience in ASEAD shipping and dry dock, we take a lot of the graduates from the International Maritime College in Sohar. And every year, of course, we also provide training. So it's not just only recruiting graduates, but also training them to become good for their future. And to do that, every year as a company, we provide in the range of about 150 slots, training slots. And we treat basically these trainees in equal way, the way we treat our crew. And when we talk about crew today, we have a lot of female crew also on board our ships. So it's not just only focusing on the male side for the crew, but also the female side. And we try to market this sort of approach so that people can actually understand that shipping or seafarers are not only male. You know, the females can also do this job. Mm-hmm. And we've seen them; they are much more successful. And to just prove it, at home they are the CEOs. Yes, you can understand now. Yeah. So we are only CEOs till 5 o'clock, and after that we forget that job. And you can see, for example, her Excellency is smiling because I'm sure that she is CEO both sides, here and at home. You know, congratulations. The same thing with June. She is also smiling because she is CEO on both. You know, we are, unfortunately for us, we are CEO only for half a day. The rest of the day is somebody else's role.
Emil?
Yeah, well, we are, of course, a much smaller animal than ASEAD Group or any ports group. But we see a lot of potential for young talent. And I always say that, I mean, it's for young people who want to experience a dynamic environment, then you go into shipping, you go into trade logistics. It's not always easy, but it's truly international, and there's many opportunities. And I think for what we have to be careful with is because especially in shipping and ports, if we talk to each other, we tend to focus on maybe more the negative than the positive. So it's also the message that you send. But there's plenty of opportunity within Sohar Port and Free Zone, and then also from Sohar Port and Free Zone in the training and developing people, then moving on to global companies, to bigger companies, and to move into the world.
And do you see a lot of women coming into
Absolutely.
this
Absolutely.
sector?
Yes, absolutely.
It's something that attracts them, and
Yeah.
so there's growing area for women manager involvement.
Yes. And we would like to see it more, and we stimulate it. But,
Encourage it.
But it encourage it, but it is happening.
And similarly with the women, you see more of them coming, trying to become part of the family, and
Yes, now, mashallah, we have graduated 4 masters as a tech masters are females. Also because the shipping industries is new in our culture, so we are investing also in women and of course in males to get the experience of these industries, and that's what really we investing a lot, and we are willing to continue of these investments because this is the right investment we can make to our
very
countries.
encouraging. Ibrahim?
Well, it's again for us. We have a chief officer who's serving on a product tanker, and we have superintendent now in the office who came as she was on board as second engineer. She got her chief engineer, but then she decided to come to the office because of an opportunity. And we have a couple more second engineers, girls being also developed to become second engineers on board LNG ships. There's a lot of cadets also there. In the office itself, I mean, with the ship management, and Frank is here also, he's leading our ship management team. There's a lot of ladies in the office, and they are everywhere. It's not just only doing the admin side, but they're also doing the ship management side. They're in the commercial team. We have girls in the marketing team. It's just all over the place. So for us, it's as I said before. I mean,
Good.
And as we always say, on board ships, and in the company, we have only one nationalities. We are shipping nationality. That is our nationality, and that's our gender, basically.
Very encouraging.
Yes.
Theo?
I mean, we're also a small company compared to ASEAN and Abu Dhabi ports. We have about 500 people worldwide. We're still recruiting. We still try to expand. But we're also looking at people with expertise on specific fields. For example, we're looking for guys with experience on the gas field, LNGs, and offshore business and renewables. I think especially in our country, as you know, like shipping is one of the main factors of economic growth. So I think there is a great future for young people and the new generation coming in our industry, as long as they understand that it requires full commitment, 24/7 engagement, and as long as they understand that the free time is a luxury in our business.
And in terms of women interest?
Yeah, there are many women coming, and as you know, like many women have senior positions in Greece. Many women are ship owners. They're in the board of many Greek shipping companies. So I think too many women are coming in our industry too.
And Chris?
Well, as you know, I mean, we're effectively a startup company 3 years ago. We've just gone past about 160 people. But, I know from our ESG slides and whatever that we're 38% women within that. Most of the people currently are still at senior level because they've been brought in as a professional level for the startup. But within the Maritime, we employed our first graduate trainee last week. So, yep, there is...
so it's getting there.
We're getting there. So there's the ability for graduate trainees to come in, and then there's also a diverse population. But I would say that also shipping, trading, it's not necessarily been the first choice for the female employee. It has been a male-dominated industry. When I look at some of my creative people, when I look at the people that do our web design and things like that, that's 100% women. You don't see a man. So certain industries attract different sexes.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you don't see too many of the men in the creative design, the web design, whatever, or not the people I've been dealing with anyway. So it's not just the industry. I think there's a perception when you go through school, university. I mean, when I went to school, I never even thought about the shipping industry. I sort of fell into it.
Trevor, should we get the memento and then go for the questions with the audience, or questions from the audience first? Okay. We had very, very exciting insights here, really quite unique. Any questions, any things that you need to be clarified, please?
Good morning, good afternoon now. This is Walid Al-Tamimi from Tasnif. I have a small question maybe for Chris, people involved in financing ships in the UAE. I keep hearing that whenever it comes to financing ship or finding investor and buying ships, they are reluctant in financing a ship if it is under UAE flag. What are the improvements that needed to be done to UAE flag or UAE legislation in general to encourage people or encourage investors in financing ships rather than trying to find other flag of convenience?
Okay, well, I think to answer that, it's already started, the new maritime law. I think one of the biggest challenges previously was enforcement. And I think that there's probably a couple of lawyers in the room that can also answer this. I think that there was a perception previously, particularly amongst the European and American lenders, that even if the document was written under English law, if you gained an arbitration award in London, for example, it wasn't necessarily enforced in the UAE or other Gulf countries. And that perception is starting to change, but I think it's still, I think the UAE flag, I mean, I've been on the board of the UAE Shipping Association. It's something that's being pushed there extensively to try and promote. It's something that we want to build up in this country. And I think that, again, it's the same as with the stock exchange and whatever. It's the outside perceptions of the Middle East, and it's pushing that stone up the hill and getting it to go over the other side. And I think all the right steps have been put together over the past several years. In the UAE Shipping Association, along with the various lawyers and the maritime law, there's a lot of things that are helping. I mean, it's not on the topic today, but we've got the new UAE corporation tax. And again, every other country in the world, shipping is a tax-exempt industry, or you have tonnage tax. Now, this is something that has not been taken into consideration within the UAE. There are a lot of different bodies working on this currently, on how that can be resolved. But if shipping companies here are going to be subject to 9% corporation tax, they're suddenly going to leave. And all the good work that's been done over the last 10 years will disappear. So there is a lot of work going on in the background, and I think it needs to continue.
Any other insights on?
No, I think Chris has covered it well. But also I want to add in the top of that, it's also to add in that the maritime laws we have in the UAE, it's become also as the banks, requirements to make sure that the vessels is navigating with the UAE flags, and that's what always discussions we takes with the banks, and we seen it also on the grounds with the ship owners and the banks to make sure in order to get the compliances of the regulations.
Okay. Another further question there in the back.
Thank you to see me. I wanted to ask one question. All this green way of development and shipping sounds really expensive, and you mentioned this a few times. But do you see any ways when in near future, not tomorrow, but in near future, this process can be more profitable for ship owners, more attractive for them? Any ideas, please? Any hope?
Yes, if I may take this. Well, thank you very much for the question. It's a question that we keep asking ourselves every day. The fact is, going green means better financing, because banks are also, they think that if a company is going green, then they should incentivize that company and reward that company. So it starts actually from there, from the financing itself, so we get better rates. And then also for the charters, who charter our ships, they will give a premium for ships that are green or kind of green. So eventually, and again, for us as a company, we also get carbon credit and being able to trade that credit with, especially if the ship's going to Europe. So you can see it. It's actually, yes, the answer to your question is yes. ESG or going green is beneficial financially. I'm just here focusing on the financial part of it. But of course, there are other good parts of it, especially when it comes to the environmental, which we believe in, and also going for our social requirements. So yes, and we should encourage going green. We should not be shy away from it. It's something coming up, and it is something that we should work towards achieving.
Theo?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Dr. Ibrahim. I think owners will always want to have a return on their investment. Of course, when you invest something, you have an expectation. And like you said, in the long run, and I agree with Dr. Ibrahim, in the long run, or even in the midterm, there will be a return on when you invest either in ships that they burn alternative fuels or ships that they're using energy-saving devices like rotor sails, like we said, in order to have an energy efficiency. The banks, of course, they will provide finance happily on these ships. And of course, the major charterers, and especially on tankers, the oil majors, they will focus on green shipping. And they will provide the premium charter rates for these ships. So I guess on the mid to the long run, the investment will be successful.
Chris?
I mean, I would add that there may be incentives today for going green from the banks, but I would say if you go 10 plus years forward, if you haven't gone green, you just won't get financing.
Yes.
I believe to make it profitable in the ESGs and also in a way that's to make the advantage or to take the advantage of the current situations is to make the right investments in the ports, in the shippings, in the logistics. So that synergies into the platform or the foundations that we will need to make. It will make the things is more sustainable. It will make it in a ways of environmental friendlies, but also this investment is need to take in a place. It shouldn't be away or diverse with the challenges today we are facing in the inflations, increasing the financing rates, the source of energies or the fuel cost, or also the recessions also the world is facing. So today there's so many complicated, so many components that is need to take a decisions in order to avoid such of these challenges. And of course, how we can mitigate these risks. The risk can be mitigated to make the successful of the ESGs and also the decarbonizations and the reductions of the emissions. It will take in a part with the investments. That is need to be taken by the governmental entities, by the shipping owners, by the port authorities, and also by the logistics companies. And this is really what we have seen the driven in the COP28. So many initiatives being taken in a place that it will make the successful of these achievements.
Yeah, my name is Ajay Kamath and I'm from the shipping industry. And I heard all of you that though you have hope for a green industry to materialize, but it's not happening. If there is a technology that comes up tomorrow, how prepared are you to invest into such a technology? I mean, you hope for something good, but are you prepared if this hope is coming in tomorrow?
You know, I'd say from the start, you say there's no hope or whatever, but if we take an MR tanker 10 years ago, an MR tanker was burning close to 30 tons a day. If you ordered one 5 years ago, it was probably burning around 22, and if you order one today, you can get it burning around 18. So the industry has already done a huge amount in design, the type of paint going on it, the boss fin caps, everything that goes on a ship. So to say that we're not doing anything is not quite correct. I think that there's been huge improvements over the past 10 years. And then as new technologies come up for conventional fuel, we've been adopting them. Now, everybody's saying, I said in my speech, that we will make ourselves dual fuel ready if we do new buildings, because there isn't anything available today. So I think the industry is moving forward, and I think the industry is doing as much as it can with the current technology available.
And this is something that has not been widely known, the numbers you just expressed. The reduction in fuel consumption per mile or per voyage. It's something that has not been advertised by the shipping industry itself enough. I think you had some more?
No, my question was not that. My question is that tomorrow technology comes up, which is a radically different technology, a deep tech, which is ready to provide a solution. I mean, you are doing, absolutely, you're doing a lot. I mean, the industry is doing a lot, but a radical different technology which requires deep pockets. I mean, how prepared are you for, I mean, are there ecosystems or are there open doors where such technologies can take off?
Emil, do you have some insights, or Theo? Or,
yeah, I must say I find it difficult to understand, but if there's technology coming, are you prepared to invest in it? That's basically what the question is, I guess. And the answer, at least for, I'm not a shipping line, I'm not a ship owner, I'm a port and free zone, but yes, we are. And as I said before, we are monitoring the market, seeing what's happening, and trying to prepare ourselves for everything that will come on our path. And make sure that we'll be ready at the right time to service the market.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add again, I mean, ultimately you're going to pay for it, the consumer. Basically, you have Walmart, you have IKEA, you have all the big companies who are out there, and they're demanding zero carbon transportation. So they're the ones that push that onto the industry as well. It's not just regulations, that's what happens. So all of these big companies will demand it, so the shipping companies will have to invest in it to transport the goods of those companies, and that cost will be passed back to those companies that will pass it on to the end consumer. Shipping is 85, whichever statistic you read, 85–90% of global trade. It's not going away, it will just adapt and develop, and the end consumer will have to pay for this ultimately.
If I may share my view on that question, it's called the energy trilemma. So it has to be, for whoever is making that decision, it has to be secure, it has to be affordable, and it has to be sustainable. So that's what we do, that spin, and then come up with the best option, the way forward. Now, that's just to share the view into that question. But I have a question to all the gentlemen, the honorable speakers on the stage. And I want to fit the conference theme into the day of Valentine's Day. So it goes like this. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, if you go into the definition, it means everybody looks at that thing in a different way. So therefore, in one word, maybe I could hear from the honorable speakers, is how do you see the future when it comes into finance and the future climate directions? So do you see it gloomy? Do you see it promising? Do you see it good? Do you see it excellent, perfect? Just one word. So back to you.
Valentine's Day. It's Valentine.
Beautiful.
Yes, it's beautiful. It's coming up. It's Valentine's Day.
I believe it's going to be brilliant with so many reasons in behind of it. One of these, the cultures or the educations or the knowledge today, really we are witnessing the people to get these responsibilities or to get to understand of how the financing, it will be intercepts with the existing investments it will take in a place not to be limited in the ships or new builds or second hand or whatever, but also we're seeing it in the transportation sectors and the integrations of the entire supply chain to make it more efficient and more effective. And that's what really it will reflect into the grounds when it's come to the opportunities that will be produced by the players in the markets. And of course, it will take the benefits of having the financings integrations within these clusters.
Yeah.
Emil?
Promising.
Adaptive.
Challenging.
Huh?
Challenging.
Very challenging.
Yeah, but I think it's also full of opportunities, and it goes for everyone. So we, as ship owners, or even for the bankers or financiers, there's a huge amount of opportunities there. And today, when we think about it, yes, maybe unfortunately, the small players will suffer, but the big players, once they are there in the market and established with the new ESG approach, or with the ESG approach, then we will set a new horizon for the industry itself. So it is very promising, and it is something that is we should be looking forward for. And especially that because today, as shipping contributes to less than 3% of the CO2 emission, yet we are seen amongst others as we are the devils. The fact is that perception needs to go and needs to fade out. And for that thing to fade out, we need to also take the chance and be courageous enough to take the decision to invest in changing that perception, and to also be there. So people, when they look at the shipping, though we, as Chris said, we are transporting over 90% of the international tonnage, yet we are not getting that much of respect, unfortunately, because of less than 3% of CO2 emission. So how can we swap that equation and make sure that shipping is seen to be very important and also very adaptive to the challenges, as well as they are also there when it comes to the green energy or green environment, basically, so for environment protection.
Yeah. There was a question right behind you. Yeah. Microphone.
She doesn't know her.
Here.
Riyad Belaid from Wärtsilä. First, I'd like to thank you for the excellent discussions and presentations, and also many thanks to the organizer for this fantastic event. I just have short comments. When it comes to ship finance, there are, as you said, there are several options related to merging, let's say, financing modules. But when it comes to retrofit, there is, I think, there is a perception shift need at the banks to see, when it comes to retrofit, to see the business case. And this is maybe not so clear at the bank side. We have seen big investors who believe in the retrofit, and they have riding this wave, and they invested in mid-aged vessels and make them greener, and then they resell them. We believe there's retrofit going to be a big market in the future. Yeah, thank you.
Chris? An agreement that retrofit will be one of the big stages of the future?
Depends on the age of the vessel. I mean, again, that's what I said in my thing. If you do a new building today, you don't know what to do, so maybe at the first dry dock you would do a retrofit. So if the technology is available, yes. Would you do it on a 15-year-old vessel? No. Will you do it on a 10-year-old vessel? We'll have to look at the circumstances at the time, so it's difficult to answer. But I think having the ability to retrofit is important.
Yeah.
But the more important thing right now is to do everything you can to minimize emissions on conventional fuel.
Theo?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. The technology is there. I mean, we've seen different ideas, like carbon capture, for example, that has been tested on some of the ships randomly. But you know, the basic point is the age of the ship and how expensive it's going to be, and how much money you can make in the long run by retrofitting.
Emil?
Nothing to add to that.
Oh? That's,
Well, for me, I think retrofitting is going to be there forever. So even now, if you order a ship today to be delivered in 2027, by the time the ship is getting delivered, there'll be a change in regulation, there'll be change in technology. So you will end up retrofitting that ship, even on the first day of delivery. This is going to be there forever, and I believe since it's going to be there in the future, we should start from now. So retrofitting mid-age ships is good for us because, again, the market or the shipyard slot availability is not there between now and 26, 27. So in order for our ships to reach that date, then we need to make them greener.
Captain?
I believe for the short terms, yes, it's an excellent move. But for long-term players, you need to have a very sustainable because you need to build some things. It has the returns of your investments. And that's where you have to make the balance in your assets and how this balance it will provide services in a sustainable ways.
Yeah. To the gentleman from Wärtsilä, how much would it cost to retrofit a 10-year-old ship, for example, or a 15-year-old? The microphone? What kind of money are we talking about? And with the total fleet, we're talking about huge, huge amounts of investments in the billions.
There depends. Actually, as Dr. Ibrahim mentioned, we have seen also 2-3 years like vessels already. The owners start to consider to retrofit them to make them dual fuel to run on one of the future fuels. But when it comes to, let's say, 10 years or even 15, some like between the second, third dry dock, there are these engines or ships like the engine is not running at the optimal area, not in, let's say, favorable zone or area. So therefore, there is possibilities to optimize the main engine, two-stroke, and also to make it more efficient, burning less fuel, and also, of course, the CII will be improved. And for that, there are like 2 different, let's say, from our side, Wärtsilä, we have offered 2 types of retrofit. We call them large retrofit. One is like radical derating by downsizing the bore. So this is we call fit for power, or fuel conversion, so that they can run off on one of the future fuels like LNG or methanol and so on. Yeah, but when it comes to new build, of course, although this is in this uncertainties, it's not known what's going to be the future fuel. But even if you build the vessel burning on LNG or methanol, still you need a pilot, which is gonna make emissions. But of course, there are some devices to tackle these emissions. Yeah.
What kind of
money?
But
cost is, of course, when it comes to the cost, it's not. Yeah, it depends on the size of the ship, on the engine, and so on. So there are like, yeah, it's different prices. And here we are not talking about engine retrofit, but also a vessel retrofit as well. So you need to make a proper study where the tank gonna be located. But the good thing is, since many they don't know what's gonna be the future, the fuels the future, so we kind of design a tank which is compatible with all 3 different fuels. So ammonia, LNG, and methanol. So you don't need to, if you invest in, let's say, retrofitting the engine or to burn methanol, but later on it turns to be not the future fuels, then of course you can switch to ammonia with minimal investment and so on. So this is also a benefit to our customers.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. Some other there to the left.
Hi, my name is Captain Ankur. I'm from Bureau Veritas. A simple question to the panel. So, we know energy transition is coming at a very big cost. We spoke about how deep the pockets need to be. So do you think that the world will finally be divided into 2 fleets? More green ships and less green ships. EU compliant ships, non-EU compliant ships. and then that's how they're going to operate. Ships which are more green will have more freight. Ships which are less green will have less freight. So what is your view on that? Because all that we're talking about EU here, not rest of the world.
I think this is fair because to run in the greens, you invested much more than the ones who didn't made any investments into that. And this is what really I see it in the freight rates to be more competitive and more also fair to the markets, to the clients, and also to the end users. Not to be limited only with the EUs, but this is also need to be a full participations from different continents, in Asia and also in other continents. Also, Africa has need also to have a major investments in there to have or to upgrade the levels of the emissions and the decarbonization agenda. So I believe it is a fair methodologies or formula to be taken with the freight rates, but at the same time, of course, that is need to give the full encouragement for the ones that didn't make any investments for the green energies or decarbonizations activities or functions within their assets.
Rather, I would also want Dr. Ibrahim to throw some light on this, because in your fleet, would you think of retrofitting everything and going towards green? Or would you just put a balance and say, okay, these are my ships which would remain on fossil fuels, these are the ships we will go on alternative fuels?
Well, for us, we are actually going through a fleet renewable program. And our ships, they trade in all parts of the world, so not just only in the eastern side, but they keep going to Europe, they keep going to the US. And when we use the EU as an example, it's basically because right now they are the most stringent in terms of the regulations. Yet, when it comes to the ETS, the emission trading scheme, if you flag a European flag on your ships, then it's basically you are bound for about only 1/3 of that ETS. Like if the moment you put a European flag, the way it's perceived or looked at, your ship will only produce 1/3 of the emission. So perhaps we can put a European flag, and then we don't need your retrofit, Riyadh. But you see, that is the dilemma here, because though we have more stringent regulation coming from the EU, but there's also some way around that. They also put something around it. Put a European flag and you only get charged 1/3. So do we need to go for retrofit? Perhaps not. If it is cheaper to put a European flag, then we'll go for a European flag. And then we'll become green somehow. But anyway, the fact is, just back to your answer, by 2032, we will be having most of our ships, if not all, at least with the minimal requirements for the ESG. And that is because we believe in it. It's not just only to be compliant with the regulations, but because we also believe in our responsibility towards the environment. And this is the way we are taking it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Close statement by who? If there's no final question, we'll have some closing statements. A quick question by me. Are there ports that don't seem to care about what sort of ship transports, whether it's fuel efficient or it's fully green or fully black? Is there some sort of dilemma or dichotomy in the system? Some people say, okay, we need to go 100% green, and others say, well, I don't really care that much. So some countries are poor enough and they say, listen, my priority is to feed my people, not to become green, because the Western powers feel that they need to be green. After they have polluted the world heavily, now they want to be green, but I'm poor, I need to feed my people, so I can do some discounts there. Is there any feedback, starting from Chris and Theo? People not, some ports not really caring, or some countries not caring that much about this greenery agenda that we have here.
if you allow me, maybe
Yes, yes.
I will put some insight of this. We have more than 70 destinations and networks staking in a place with our vessels. And really, we have seen this by natures. It's becoming now as a cultures, as regulations, enforcements in the countries. It is a cultures how it's being taken in a place. But now, really, once we are visiting or calling numbers of ports, we seen this in the arrival before the visitors become alongside. And of course, we start to invest in our vessels with some scrubbers to make sure our sustainability is in the routes and in the connections and the networks that we are providing. With the times, it's becoming a mandatory within the port authorities to make sure also the regulations and rules enforcement is taking a place. And that's where we'll make more encouragements to the ship owners to go for these transformations. Not to be only limited with the IMO regulations, but also is need to be taken a place by initiatives to make the compliances of the green energies and also green environment initiatives.
And the other ideas on the topic, and then we can go for the closing statements and our photo.
I think, you have, of course, as everywhere, there's differences in background and situations. So our port of rezone is in Oman. Oman has the aim to be net zero in 2050, is at the forefront of energy transition. We are shareholders with Asyad Group. Well, Dr. Ibrahim just mentioned the belief of Asyad, but also on the other hand, Port of Rotterdam, who wants to be the front runner in Europe on energy transition, and we ourselves want to be there because it's bringing a better future, but also we see the opportunity. So there we are, and we are at the forefront. And then there's, of course, ports that are lagging behind. But at the end of the day, as Captain is saying, everybody will be moving, fast pace, slower pace, but it is
all of them
a movement, and it is happening.
Okay. So, other than that, shall we proceed with some closing statements, starting with Chris?
Yeah, I think we're in interesting times. I think that we are moving forward in a green way. I think the industry is adapting to what's required in the markets from not only regulation, but I think many of us are actually going ahead of regulations and trying to achieve that. And I give a little known fact that China, a lot of people lambast for their coal producing power plants and the pollution they give out. But not many people actually realise that slipped under the net last year is they are now the largest global producer of renewable energy in the form of solar and wind. China is actually the largest. It's their population that they still need alternative sources of coal and whatever, but they are actually the largest producer. So I think you're going to see a lot of regulation as that increases coming from China onto the industry. And that will then change the dynamic of Far East and European trade.
Yeah, I think we all agree, and we said before, we live in challenging times. We have, of course, outside of ship finance and new energy sources, I think we have the geopolitical tensions and maritime security that we also have to focus in our industry. But personally, and maybe it's me, I'm quite optimistic that things will become better in the future. I think this industry has been able to succeed through all these challenges in the past. We can always find our way, either through capital markets or private equity funds, or through more expenses for the owners or the industry in general. But I think the most important factor that we have to take under consideration is that we have to work together on this, because we're going to move we're going to have a transition into a new world, especially with the energy sources. So that requires a lot of expertise from different sources, from ship owners, managers, class societies, engine manufacturers, everybody, flag states, everybody can help on this. So we need to stay together, we need to work closely together. And I think it has been done for decades or even hundreds of years, this industry will have a smooth transition into a different world.
Emil?
Yeah, I'm with Theo. I mean, there's a lot of challenges, uncertainties, unknowns, what's going to be. It's a difficult environment, but at the same time, it's so promising, and there's so many opportunities, and we shouldn't neglect. You can be cynical about certain regulations, you can be cynical about certain innovations, but at the same time, a lot is happening as we speak, and a lot is moving as we speak. And we tend to focus more on the things that are not moving or not happening or the challenges, and not focusing on the steps that are being taken and that do bring forward and do move us to this greener environment. So I think more optimism, look at the opportunities and see what is happening, and then the collaboration in that, then I think the future is bright.
Many thanks. Doctor?
Well, thank you very much. It's actually, the way I see it is the more challenges we face, the more opportunities we get. This is very important. And just maybe to announce that for us as SEAT Shipping, we, together with Valley, charter for our VLOC and the British firm, we're going to fit or retrofit rotor sails on board one of our largest ships, a 400,000 tonner bulk carrier. And the project has already kicked in, and hopefully by next year, we'll be able to update you on the way, this time of the year, on the way the project is going, and if we see that it is something worth doing for the rest of the ships. So we are very optimistic, and we will remain optimistic regardless of the challenges. And I think for us, as in the shipping segments or shipping sectors, there's a lot that can be done, and that a lot that can be also offered to the people in return.
Captain?
I'm very optimised for the futures, despite the numbers of the challenges that we have on the table, especially in the geopolitical things, inflations, financing rates, increments, energies, and fuel cost, and others. Today, what we all agree today in the discussions and also in the panels with my colleagues, we need to implement more synergies to have more, of course, interface in between the communities of financings, shipping owners, ports, terminals, and of course the logistics arms. And that's where we will achieve more objective, more initiatives, more optimizations, more efficiencies, as well as more competitiveness to make the sustainabilities of the supply chain and how we can manage that together.
Excellent. Many thanks. Trevor, many thanks for hosting us.